So it's always exciting getting back into training. So I just want to find out from you now that at least, I like the little throwing out and that connecting. It makes us feel like we people. And so
Yeah.
I would like to find out from you in the time that we had gone through the session yesterday. We closed off with a very, very good point that you made where you said, the information is everywhere, but the
Mm,
structure that the program is bringing, it's pulling things into perspective. And,
mm,
departing with that particular point, it actually reminded me of the YouTube series that I'm going to start from today about entrepreneurship, where I really want to just move my Mondays to property, my Wednesdays to entrepreneurship. And in that, I'll be talking a lot about you can know a lot of things and information is everywhere, but when we don't have the structure and how to put the information together, this is what
yeah.
causes are actually there for. And when you ended that
Mm,
yesterday, you actually left me smiling, thinking, oh, I like that she'd seen that so soon,
yeah.
and not because
Mm,
to make me smile, but
mm,
it gave me that thinking of, what, information really is at our fingertips, but if we don't
mm,
have the way and how to do it, this
mm,
is where we end up making the big mistakes, right?
mm,
So I
mm.
just want to find out from you, like on a whole, how did you find yesterday's session? What stuck out to you? What did you kind of think about during the course of the day and so forth?
Oh, just to add on what you're saying, and when as you say, that information is at our feet, but when it's too much, it becomes overwhelming. You end up
Yes,
thinking, clearly I can't do this. It's a lot. You know what I mean? People
absolutely.
are doing so much. I'm not doing it anymore. But what actually stood out for me, which is something that there's always, when I listen to recordings and stuff, there's always something about strategy. You know, but now the way you the way you put it, that, wait, I want to start. I'm trying to don't think I forgot. I didn't forget.
That's fine, no problem at
Like,
all.
the fact that you need to have a strategy looking at whether you want passive income or active income. I'm trying to recall the first one. Kana, what did we touch on? Sorry, my mind just
No problem. I'll give you
out.
time.
So yes, like your overall strategy, that what do you want? Do you want to earn income, or do that passive income or active income? And the fact that now at least I have a better understanding of what active is, like your capital mainly relates to your active income, and tying it with your long-term plans, tying it with your goals, what you want in life, tying the strategy with your why. They're not isolated things, they're not mutually exclusive. So I like that. And as part of the strategy, when you take into account the area that you want to look at, how everything ties together. So when it was just information, it's like, okay, area, but then the area that you focus on needs to be tied to your strategy. Because if you want passive income, then you will look for an area where there's a lot of rentals. That, yeah, so I was like, oh, okay, because areas like, no, it's mid-rent, I like mid-rent, there are youngsters. That's what I thought before yesterday. So that actually stood, that was my number one thing about the area, that it links back to your strategy. So you don't just choose me. Yes, maybe you might choose mid-rent because you like it and I stay close to it, but it goes back to that focal point, your why. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? And what's your plan? So everything must fit into the plan.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a revision question.
So it's not so much about revision. For me, it's yes, there's revision. Yes, I know you've taken notes because I'm confident in that. And yes, there's always the online version as well as these recordings to go back to. But why I ask this question is just to see, we'll always come out with a different sort of thinking even if we're sitting in the same classroom. So when I ask this question, I just want to hear, if I hear something in the morning, this is what I tend to do. The rest of the day, the way the day plans out, I always go back to that thing I heard in the morning. If I hear something midday has broken my thoughts of what I did in the day, what I'm doing later. Midday takes a different turn for me, because I'm then left thinking in the afternoon, oh, about one or two, because then I reflect. So the question is just really to see whatever stood out for you yesterday. What is it that you actually said, you know what? Yeah, for real, I'm here, I'm doing the right thing for me, not for everybody else. And for the fact that you are able to say to me now that strategy is so closely connected to, if I know my strategy, I know my area. But if I know my strategy, I'm still following my goals and my plans. I understand my why. And strategy is one of those determining factors of, if you are doing active income like flipping, could I say I like Midrand because there's a lot of youngsters there? Because in fact, where you are and you're thinking, I like Midrand because there's a lot of youngsters there, your clientele could be young professionals where you get potentially a 2-bed, 1-bath, and then you say to yourself, because in Midrand there's Vodacom. If I get something close to Vodacom, I can rent out to 2 professionals that will like the idea of walking to Vodacom. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's really where the question comes from.
Yeah, and I think overall for me, I was still left with, okay, I am doing this, it's doable. You know, I didn't, I'm still on it. Like, okay, I'm still doing this. Yeah, I think that's the biggest as well.
No,
That
that's
it makes
fantastic.
sense.
It makes sense. Oh,
It makes
wonderful stuff. As long as it makes sense, because if you can build a picture in your mind and there's
yeah.
something that you can take that is practical, that then for me, I would say then my service and what I'm wanting to achieve is then being complete. Yeah.
Wow.
Fantastic stuff. So what we could do is we can shake, rattle, and roll onto our session for today. Cool stuff. So this is where we landed up yesterday when we were talking about the lessons that have stood the test of time, where we wrapped up the overall property investing strategy to actually understand anything that I'm wanting to get into. I need to understand what is my strategy, because if I understand my strategy, it will take me to my area. And when I do understand the area and I've done that market research, I've done my due diligence, I then can now go look for that property, comfortable in knowing that this particular area, whether I've taken the TPN report, whether I've driven in the neighborhood, or whatever the case is that I've done, those physical things that I've done to remind me why I'm here, then those things have stood the test of time. And then having that quick analysis on whatever the rental comes in, and minus my expenses, gives me the cash flow that I'm looking for. And if I build up this cash flow, where is this cash flow going to at the end of the day? Because is it going to go to, I really want to take the equity out of this property and go buy my next property cash? So some people will say the cash flow, I'm going to keep dumping it back into the bond. So if they end up paying extra into the bond, the period of time that they're paying is much shorter, meaning the equity that they can jump into is also on a larger scale. So there's a lot of different reasons why we all get into property investing. And so, just in a nutshell, those are the things that we had covered yesterday. And remembering that consistency is key, because once we go through the education to really start understanding all the intricacies of it, we can then say, okay, cool, I'm going to consistently stick to this particular strategy to see what it's going to give me. If that strategy doesn't work, can I alter it a little bit? If that doesn't work, could I sell off this deal, because it's still a good deal at the end of the day? And then, just in terms of advice, Like, for example, I've been, on Facebook, I don't always just listen. I mean, I don't just always connect with people on Messenger. I'm also not my strongest on Messenger, because some days I
Yeah.
can forget about Messenger and it can chill there for forever. you know,
Mm.
and then what I found is that I will start talking to people, and then this young fellow that is in Nigeria started talking to me, and because of his consistency and wanting to talk to me, I decided to give him time yesterday. And when I gave him time yesterday, I realized, in my opinion, the conversation, this sounds like a conversation he's latched onto from other people, because he couldn't explain simple concepts. But what he
Okay.
did is he got the outline of a story. And I'm like, okay, it's fine. And then I remind myself, by the way, let me not just take advice from anybody. Let me not just put anybody in front of my audience, because
Mm.
advice, when you get it for free, it's not that it's totally worthless, but I call it worthless because I want to find out, the place I'm getting it for free, are those people, have they been through the journey?
Yeah.
Because if they haven't been through the journey, then to me it's worthless. But if they've
Mm.
been through the
Mm.
journey, they'll be able to give me essence. And that's how I find a lot of things in life. And then obviously, lastly, in terms of the lessons, here it's just really about being patient. Like
Mm.
you said, you sat down and you felt, you know what, this thing is doable.
Mm.
Some people will sit down and say, but can we just get into it quickly, please? I've got 5 deals
Yeah.
on the table. And they want to jump into something. There's a
Yeah.
student of mine currently, I've said to her, I understand you're wanting to jump, but remember,
Mm.
you've jumped with all your other properties. You've come here and
Mm.
you've said to me, I want to do it better than what I did before. But right now, your moves are showing me that you're impatient. What
Mm.
have you done to cultivate what you've been learning
Mm.
over the last period of time? So really, that's
Yeah.
in a nutshell of what we had touched on yesterday. So
Yeah.
anyway,
And you humbled me one time.
I'm listening.
I can't remember, it was one of the live sessions, and what were you, I can't recall what you were teaching on. And
Yeah.
then I think on running the numbers, there's a session that you did on running the numbers, and people asked whether we will share the spreadsheet. Remember, you took
Yes,
us through
yes.
that spreadsheet. And at some point, I asked, so what if you lose that, you identify a property and you lose it while you are busy, running these numbers? And you were like, yeah, then it means that property was not for you. I
Comments
was
on
like, okay.
oh wow, oh wow. Yes, I remember that comment very, very well. It's just, when I'm teaching and I see I don't take notice of the names too much, except when I'm addressing you. I remember that question. Yeah, then it's not for you.
You're like, no, it's not. I'm like, ouch, okay.
And you know why I say,
So,
yeah, I say that because
mm,
if we're running the numbers, when we're learning, it took us how long on that session? An hour, hour and a half.
I think, yeah, I think an hour. Yeah, an hour and a half. It was more. We ran, yeah.
But now think about this. If you know how to run the numbers, you've just finished viewing the property. What I sometimes do with some of my students, straight from viewing the property with them, we go and sit in the
Mm,
coffee shop and we run the numbers. But running the numbers literally takes us less than 10 minutes. Why? Because of the skill we've been practicing.
yeah.
So
Oh,
from
yeah.
viewing the
Okay.
property, we sit next to each other, 10 minutes, we do this. We start saying,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Now, did you ask the agent for this? When we're going through
Mm,
the spreadsheet, then I'll say, okay, send the message, write all the points of what we've just missed. Now send
yeah.
the agent this message. Hi, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm looking. When they give you that information, you fill it in
Mm,
the sheets. So yes, I
mm,
still stand by that statement very much so.
yeah. So yeah, even yesterday when you spoke about the patience, I remembered that, like, patience.
Patience, because you know
Yeah.
what's gonna happen. The more you do this constant repetition, in your sleep, you'll be able to run those numbers like this. It doesn't take me more than 10 minutes to run numbers because all the information I need, I've got it.
Yeah.
So I'm literally like a data capturer. The place that it takes me time is when I'm going to look for the sales comparables on Property 24.
Okay.
And when I'm looking through the actual report where I mustn't be rushed. But I can do that straight after a viewing and already have the answer by tonight on whether or not that's a deal. So that's what we're going to do our last day. We're going to go through that spreadsheet slowly but surely. Where you have your questions and that, I'm just going to remind you of that. So you can see there's a lot of stuff I give for free, but some people, when there's no structure, don't understand the value of that item.
Yeah, because it's not it, and bits and pieces. It's in between, you know. It's in between. Yeah. Okay.
Cool stuff. So today we're going to talk about what does a property investment opportunity look like? What does it sound like? We're then going to talk about passive income versus active income, things to consider in passive income, things to consider within active income. I do believe that we will already tap into the creative finance component, but just on a high level, these are the things that we're going to cover today. And then, so what I'm going to do quickly on this one, let me just do this, say stop share and then share again. There is no specific sound for this video, okay? But in this particular video, we're going to go through, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect stuff. In this video, it's just a quick viewing. There's just music playing in the background. There was quite a bit I was saying in this video, but again, the aim of showing a property viewing while I'm teaching, it's just the aim for us to then have a conversation about what did you see, what did you notice, and when people talking about distressed or an old property or a rundown property, for you to understand what it actually is. Cool. So let us go in here.
Is that your battery? But I think I saw a battery low.
Yeah, I just plugged in my laptop.
Okay.
I didn't realize was all funny. Was not plugged in. Cool stuff. So that particular share was just really to say, to show what a viewing looks like without, without actually being there. So you can have a bit of a view of the viewing. I know that some of my other viewing recordings can be 7 minutes, can be 10 minutes, but I just wanted to take a short video just to share that, when sometimes you get to a property investing opportunity and it's an old place or it's slightly run down, that there's potential in looking at properties like that. I know that yesterday you said, you worry about will they crook you or something, because you're a lady. But one of the things that we found, because this was a 1 bedroom, and this 1 bedroom was in Florida. And what's interesting about this 1 bedroom is that it was so huge. The old properties,
Yeah.
it could be like 75 square meters and a single bedroom. And these days, sometimes a double bedroom is in a 65 square meter place. Um,
Mm.
so in places like this, I think it was 72 or 75 square meters, it was a 1 bedroom. And because there was permission, we had gotten permission, we were able to convert it into a 2 bedroom.
Okay.
So this one, the progress was there. What I'll do is I'll actually try and find those progress pictures, but I just really wanted to share, as I would do on a normal training, whether it's online or whether it is in the class, just to give an indication of a look and feel about what a rundown or a distressed property could actually look like.
And when you say you got permission, who do you get permission from? Is that from the municipality as well?
Yes, so it was a whole town planning conversation, because we didn't just buy this unit on its own, we bought the
Okay.
building.
Okay. All right.
So when we bought the
Okay.
building, we were able to say, in terms of feasibility in this neighborhood, it's a high density area. A lot of the neighboring units, they are actually much smaller, and they are 2 bedrooms. This 1 bedroom is 75 or 72 square meters, and we would like to then make it a 2 bedroom. And it was actually quite fascinating because we didn't divide the room itself. It was the lounge and the dining room area that was huge. So the same
Oh.
room actually just went into the lounge and the dining room area. So when you then saw it again, the lounge and dining room area was at the usual, when I say usual, in comparison to a size of an everyday lounge.
Okay.
Chosen as the tenant to come in and just use up that whole area as a lounge, or you could have used up the area as a lounge, but you would have still had sufficient space for a table and 6 chairs. So we did both. We did both the measurements to see, will it still work, and because the distance from where the kitchen is into what the dining room area is, it was still just straight out of the kitchen into the dining room area.
Okay.
So what I'll
Okay.
do is, I'm actually thinking I should actually have some after pictures to put into this one. It's just I changed the video because the last video was about 7 or 10 minutes, and that's the one I showed during the training that I gave at the beginning of the year at the beginning of lockdown in the group. Cool. So that's an example of what a property investment opportunity looks like. When we go on to what does a property investment opportunity sound like, often terms, everybody's going to say, I am motivated to sell, therefore this is a property investment opportunity. Or you'll find that this is a new development because you're not going to pay transfer fees and you're the first time buyer, and these are all the qualifying criteria for a property investment opportunity. But really, in the experience that we've gone through, we found people that were motivated to sell their property, particularly below market value. They want to sell it fast, were couples going through a divorce. Just think about how messy that can be at given times. People that
Yeah.
are saying, I'm done with South Africa, I'm going to Australia. There's people that
My
are
neighbor.
immigrating. Your neighbor.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Going to Australia. That's why she was selling.
Oh, very interesting. And then you'll
Mm.
find that an investment opportunity looks like somebody that's been old, that is old, that has had this family house since she was or he was just a young guy, young couple. Now they're much older, they want to downscale, or potentially there's no other family member to give it to, and they just want to sell the property. Because also When you go inside, it's outdated, the carpets are old, there's still wallpaper and things like that, right? So there's an opportunity there to actually understand why somebody that is much more matured in age is actually selling at that time. So I want to find out from you, what else could you think of with these examples that you would think is a motivated seller?
I think downsizing, if you consider COVID now,
That's true.
some
That is
people
a
might
good one.
consider to downsize. Yeah.
Definitely. I absolutely agree with you, because right now it's like a matter of, okay, we can't afford this anymore. We need to get into a
Mm,
smaller place. I'm absolutely, absolutely with you.
mm.
There's another one that I could think of as well, is an unwanted inheritance, an unwanted property that they've inherited. There are some people that say, yeah, I don't want this property.
Yeah.
Some of those people make for good seller finance deals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because they
They'll
are
be
not
out
in.
immediately.
So the seller finance deal, if you can recall, if I've inherited a property, the property is just standing there. These tenants have given me gray hair since and since, and I want to sell it. What happens,
Mhm.
me as an investor will come knocking on your door, and then we make an agreement that I'm going to give you a deposit. I'm going to get tenants in. I'm going to maintain this property. And then what I'll do is, when the tenant pays me, I'll pay you. And this is
Yeah.
going to happen for the next X amounts of years. So by the time it comes to the end of year 2, I'll pay you the balance of what is left from the offer to purchase. So if you're
Mm.
selling the place to me for 200,000, I'm going to try my best as an investor that over the next 24 months to get as much as that 24,000 out of the tenants as possible.
Mm.
So
Mm.
that at the end of this term, I'm just going to pay you the balance of what actually is left. So that's an
Yeah.
agreement that people can come up with.
And where do you find these reasons? Is that from the estate manager? How would you know if it's not explicit?
So this is the asking process. So now when you're looking for your deals, you're going to say to the real estate agent, so what is making this person want to sell? So the agent will sometimes say, oh no, they just want to sell because they're moving on to whatever. Then you think, okay, a lot of the times when you listen out nicely, language tells you more than what the person is saying. What I found over time is, like for example, there was a deal in Boksburg. The gentleman was fairly old. In fact, the first time TJ went to go and view the property, as he got there, the real estate agent didn't have the keys. So she had to call the owner and say, we're here, but I don't have the keys. How am I going to show this person around?
Mm.
But the person was ill and said, well, just show them around the property. The next time I'll make a plan. The next time TJ went there, it was the owner that came to open. But when the owner came to open, in hospital, when they put a drip on, they put it on
Yeah.
a long item that you can push.
Yeah.
He was operating with one of those drips. So he came
Mm.
pushing this thing to open the door. So the conversation led to, oh, sorry, I didn't realize that your health was in jeopardy. You know, what is happening, if you don't mind me asking? And as people, when you're looking at stuff, people talk. And this guy
Mm.
says, oh no, this is old age and this is what I want to do, da 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 da. When TJ made the offer, he realized that the real estate agent was being quite the tough gatekeeper. He didn't think they were taking the offer to this guy. But the long and short of what happened is, eventually TJ found out this guy needed to pay for an operation. And so the negotiation is, why don't I pay for your operation? And
Mm.
I do 1, 2, 3, 4. So which then means I'm going to sign the offer to purchase for this collective amount that you need. And I'm going to add in extra money so that you can live off of this money. And they came to an agreement. Why? Because a simple thing is that somebody that was sick came to open the door. So opportunity will present itself. It depends on how you're going to see the opportunity.
And with that as well, I think people's skills are very important.
Absolutely.
You can't be this aloof person, and so you have to be able to connect and relate with people. Yeah, exactly. I think that's what.
Exactly. So during coaching, like you'll see after we completed this training, you'll actually ask yourself, okay, if I learned this, if it was a 1-day training or over the last 4 days, what happens with coaching? We now start picking things apart. When you go view the property, what is the conversation you have? Do you have a checklist? What are the things that you take notice of? That's what the coaching is about. The coaching is not so much about teaching you the process, but it's unpacking the process. So when you get there, what type of conversation are you having? When you're viewing, where are you writing your notes? When the estate agent, when you're asking the estate agent questions, is it questions that's going to give you the information to fill out your numbers? When you're viewing the property, what are you taking notice of? When you're negotiating, you don't negotiate when it comes time to make the offer. You negotiate from the first time you meet somebody. And what I mean by that is building rapport.
Yeah.
Because if we don't have rapport, we're not going to be as a real estate agent, they're going to say, oh, don't you think this has got such wonderful potential? It will be worth so much money the moment you just put a little bit of paint on it.
Yeah.
You turn around and say, it will be worth a lot of money if you put a bit of paint on it, which means I need budget for paint. But actually, it's not only paint, because my builder told me that there's damp. So which means I have to find the reason from or the root cause of the damp, close off the damp, and then paint. So I'll need a little bit more than paint, wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
So that conversation starts making the next person see what you see.
Yeah.
So while you're making these statements, by the time it comes to putting the offer on the paper, the offer, you've already been working on it from the day you walked in the first time. Because then you'll say, whoa, what happened to the ceiling? You know what I mean? Because then you're gonna be exciting things as you're going along the way. And as we unpack that blueprint, I start sharing with you, have this conversation, add your 50-cent piece in. What did you see? How did you do that? You go and you do it and you come back. That's homework. Now, go online and find a deal that you want to run numbers with. Did you find the information just like we did on the Facebook group? Yeah? And then I'll say, okay, cool. So now, where do you think negotiation should have started? What do you think should be the features of negotiation? Should not have started in the beginning. And that takes you back to, by the way, when I find a deal, I already should start this personality makeover already then. So then you start highlighting yourself. Hey, by the way, what is it that I need as a person to connect with the next person to build rapport? And then now that I've got the person skill, then the fourth one would be suspensive conditions. What do I need to write in my offer to purchase to make sure that if everything doesn't go according to the way I want it, then I can still walk away from this deal, even though it's a legal document. And that's what coaching is about. Coaching is not about telling you the processes of what we're sharing now. It's about you literally going to do, coming back. Where were you nervous? Where did you think you tripped up? Where do you think we can enhance? What were your points? And when we start looking at you as a whole, as a person, when you see what you won with, and then you saw where you can make better, the picture looks different because it's balanced. I won with this. Yeah, the lights are shot it out. But yeah, whew, maybe I need to look at a couple of YouTube videos to get my negotiation skill going. Do you know what I mean? So this is what the coaching is all about. What you've entered, and you're still part of the top 5. What you've entered, that's literally what it's going to be. That's what I'm giving away as the 3 prizes. People don't realize the essence and how big those prizes are, but it's okay because my previous.
No, it's okay. I'm happy they don't.
You see, the previous 3 that won the training in the beginning of the year. By the time we got to the 4th session, they said, "Yo, if you told me this 3 months ago, I would have believed you that I would be here." By the time we ended the coaching, we agreed that when things are normal or back to normal, we're going to have our last coaching session under the tree.
Wow.
So we teased it under the tree because, where I was sitting yesterday, you will see the reflection of a tree in the window, in the sliding door.
Yes.
That's under my tree. That's where I have a braai and all sorts of stuff.
Okay.
And then we agreed, instead of just having a one-on-one session with each person, what they're going to do is go out and do their best and encounter life as it is. And that day we're going to have a feedback session.
Yeah.
So no problem. So for me, that's how open I am.
So are they done?
They are done, but we're just waiting for the right day to sit under the tree.
Okay. All right.
So going back to the property investment opportunities, this is what it sounds like. So that was a very good question on how will you know these reasons? You'll know these reasons because you're going to engage with somebody. You're going to engage either with the seller directly, or you're going to engage with a real estate agent, property practitioner.
Okay.
Cool. Fantastic stuff. So we're going to go over to passive income versus active income. Especially, I'll always go back to, now we know the overall strategy of any property investment opportunity. We know what to look out for. We've seen a building. We then seeing other motivating factors on why somebody is going to sell. And then I usually say at this point, let's park that information because it's going to come back into play just now when I talk about what is a property investing opportunity. Because when you understand what you're looking for and how you go about looking for it, this section you're going to start saying, okay, cool, this is my personal strategy. And it still goes back to, if I'm looking for passive income, if I'm looking for active income, these are the things I need to take notice of. So in terms of passive income, there's different categories of buy to let. Buy to let is just my buying and my renting ability. When somebody talks about a buy to let, they generally have bought a house or a flat where they're renting it out to one tenant. Okay. Then there's others that will talk about a multi-let, where most of the times it's a house. Most times it could be a 3-bedroom apartment flat, but for most it's a house. What happens in this multi-let? It could be 2 or more tenants, right? And these 2 or more tenants don't necessarily have to be related to each other. So instead of, like in the buy-to-let scenario where you will let it out to one family, you may say, you know what, I like I like Midrand because there's a 3-bedroom flat. And in this 3-bedroom flat, there's a 2-bath. And most of the times with the the townhouses these days, one of the rooms come with an ensuite, right?
Yeah.
So you'll find that, here in Midrand, I like it because there's a 3-bed, 2-bath. So which means those that are working at Vodacom, whether in the call center, wherever, Vodacom is huge. You can then make sure that you target young professionals and say, my people need to come from Vodacom. I talk about spoofing a little bit later, well, phishing, spoofing, but you'll see what I mean by how you're going to attract these tenants. So you could say, well, these could be three friends. It could be Jenna, it could be Kiamo, and it could be Taurai. All three of them work at Vodacom. They trust each other, they work in one team. Maybe sometimes they work on the same shifts and things like that. So they walk together to work and they walk back. That is a sort of relationship in terms of multi-lets that we usually want to attract. Then,
Okay.
then there's something they call an HMO, which is a house of multiple occupancy. Now, in this house or flat, you could be renting it out to 3 or more tenants that come from 2 or more households, still not related. Sometimes it could be 2 cousins and a friend, or whatever the case is. But the bottom line is that they're sharing, but the HMO is a bigger brother to a multi-let. So if you've ever heard the word HMO, it really is house of multiple occupancy. But here in South Africa, more often than not, you're going to hear renting out a room. More often than not, you may hear multi-let, but it's the size that where these professional names come from. The multi-let is 2 or 3 people. The HMO could be 3 to 5 people.
Okay.
So in then student accommodation, as we know it, all the students will have their own room, or sometimes a room is big enough where students could share. Or with student accommodation, you'll find that some of the student accommodation is like dormitory style, which then means there's 2 double bunks in that particular space. But the common area is something that they will share, which is the kitchen, bathroom, and toilet. So these are just the categories of buying and renting so that you can get a passive income, your rental income being your passive income. I have not included Airbnb. Airbnb is a different approach altogether. And I always say that Airbnb, I can give you tips from what I know in the textbook because I've never done it. However, what we have done is we've sat in the classroom. TJ, Rieta, then decided in the student accommodation that's in Cape Town. When it came to the end of last year, one of the student accommodations, they gave it a test run. And from December, January, they made it Airbnb. So that the end of January till October, the students were in there. So I wasn't part of the process, but I was part of the updates. So for me, it would be, it's still theory because it's something I haven't done. But to have sat down and understood the training, I've got another partner who actually does property management in Airbnb. So him and I have decided that if there's any Airbnb students that need hand holding, that need property management, I will say, have a conversation with my partner. And that's a partnership I've got going on with him. And that's how, like in the property space or any business for that matter, you start meeting people that have a superpower you're looking for, but you can associate yourself with them because you trust them. So I only do that with Gerald because I trust Gerald. I haven't done that partnership in Airbnb with anybody else. Okay. Gerald does it well. I've seen his places. I've seen his student accommodation. I've seen the places he looks after in terms of project property management. I've seen the Airbnb structures that he keeps going back to. I've seen his listings. He's got a listing right here in Honeydew. So my comfort, and even have as being one of his customers, like that's how far I went before I could say yes for the partnership. I'm like,
you had to test everything.
Yes, I'm a tester. Yeah. I'm a software tester. So I was testing everything, so the reason I haven't got it here because it's not necessarily something that you buy to let.
Yeah.
So buy to let is ownership. Airbnb is more of a rent to rent contract. And of course, I talk about it here because it's applicable, because there's passive income coming in. So the rent to rent, yes?
No, it's fine. Continue.
Oh, you sounded like you're going to have a question there. So that's how I said
Yeah.
So the rent to rent strategy, I talk about it here because it's befitting. But the rent to rent strategy, it's a different beast altogether. You have a different type of contract. The lease agreement must state that you can sublet. Okay. Because there's some people that say, property investors come rent out my place, but because I know you're going to rent it out to students, I'm going to ask you for a little bit more rent than anybody else. Because then they are aware of the strategy, they may not be able to do it themselves. They are aware of the strategy, but they may not be there for control. And they are aware of the strategy, thinking I could make an extra buck, but let that person do it. Because if I don't need them in my house anymore, the lease agreement can end it. So the difference is in these categories, the rent to rent option allows you to then continue to rent an apartment from somebody and rent it out as Airbnb, rent it out as student accommodation, or rent it out to whatever you want to. But in this case that we're talking about passive income, it's really the Airbnb process. Somebody made, I don't know if you know Robin Booth.
Robin Booth?
Yes.
No.
So Robin Booth made a stupid amount of money at the end of, I think it was 2017. I stand corrected. But what he did was he looked for all these rent to rent strategies. Okay. And he looked for all these rent to rent properties. And during November, December, and January, Cape Town is a tourist destination. And Robin Booth rented out a number of apartments via Airbnb and made coin.
Wow.
Because those 3 months, when everybody's out and about having a party, Robin put a process in place. He got onto Airbnb and he rented out all these properties. In those 3 months, if he said something like he coined in more than 150,000 Rand from a rent to rent. So the moment you start thinking outside of the box, it's amazing how he won Property Investor of the Year. I think it was in 2018. And that's where he was giving these stats.
Oh.
And
sorry, with Airbnb, I don't know, in my mind, I put it in the category of, I don't know how they operate, your guest houses and the hotels, because I think they're in the same
service accommodation.
Yeah, okay. Service accommodation. Okay.
So the hotels, the Airbnbs and all of that, even student accommodation is under the category of serviced accommodation.
So it may be the only thing, but they can also be long term. It doesn't have to be. You can have a long term contract, stay in a hotel for 6 months.
Correct.
Okay.
Because all they're doing, they call it service accommodation because you're providing a service for them. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool stuff. So that is on the categories of buy to let, plus the added rent to rent that I always find it's good to talk about here, because many people find that they are able to earn a passive income through this particular strategy. Cool. So these are the basics I talk about, right? There's 4 basics. I usually say, let's keep things simple. And the reason I talk about keeping things simple, when you are fixing up a place for somebody to stay in, if you ask yourself, could I put in a chandelier? If the increased cost that's going to come out of your pocket does not lead to an increased rental, don't do it. Okay, that's why I say keep it simple. Keeping it simple is if I add Wi-Fi to my place, I highlight that I've got a single garage and it's a 2-bed, 1-bath. Who is that place going to attract? Right? And if I put that particular stuff in place, I now know just by adding unique features such as having a garage and Wi-Fi, I'm going to attract people that work from home. I'm going to attract people that may bring work from work to home. I could attract a number of people that work on the internet from home. Or I could even say, I've got internet, I've got a washing machine. What that does is, for those that are just leaving home, starting out in corporate positions, when they see a washing machine and they see Wi-Fi, if my neighbor's rent is 5,000, but my rent is 5,300, they may consider this extra 300 is going to get me access to a washing machine and Wi-Fi. Chances are they're going to go with me because Wi-Fi, they're already seeing themselves saving data. Doing their washing, the washing machine's going to do that. So you want to ask yourself, if I'm putting in any extras, if it's an increased cost, would it lead me to be able to increase my rental? Okay.
Yeah.
The second thing in terms of the buy-to-let basics is property management. I always encourage whether you are going to start managing your property from the beginning or not, it's not the matter. But if you've got the dream of building a portfolio, always add property management fees. You budget into the future. Why? Because when you now get to 3 properties and you think to yourself, oh, I must drive here, I must drive there, or I must drive into this complex and I must deal with 6 people today, I don't list for them. Whatever the case is. Or you don't want to get disturbed when you're at a braai and somebody calls and says the geyser burst, for example. You want your property management company to look after that. Again, it's personal preferences, but I always say, if you've got foresight and you say, even if I start managing the property myself, from day one in my budget, I need that property management fee set out one side. Because you could even say, you know what, I plan on actually making this a full-time gig. The bottom line is that 10% of your rental income over 3 properties could be your petrol money that you are going to use on a monthly basis, going to all 3 or 5 or 7 of your units, checking up on your units, right? It's going to be money for petrol. It's going to be money to compensate you to buy something nice for yourself, because at the end of the day, you're paying yourself to do that. So there's a lot of, so there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, but the bottom line is keep those fees in mind, and we budget on them in the deal calculator, as you've seen from day one. Then the next thing is, and these are basics to always keep on top of mind, because these are the things that are going to come up again in the deal calculator. So it's a reinforcement of stuff that comes up in the deal calculator. The next thing you want to say is insurance, maintenance, and setting your limits. And when I talk about setting limits, I'm talking about the maintenance costs involved. Sorry, one sec. I was just asking my son to get me water. I realized as I lifted my bottle that my bottle was empty.
It's empty. Yeah.
Cool stuff. So insurance, maintenance, and setting limits. So setting limits is really just saying everything that you do costs money. Okay.
Mhm.
When you get a property, insurance, it's going to cost money. Why? Because you want to know that your things are protected. If you get in there with no insurance, a geyser burst, where are you going to get the money from? If you get in there with
Yeah.
no maintenance costs, if you've got a freestanding house, who is going to keep the premises decent looking? Who's going to cut the grass? Small
Mhm.
things. And when I talk about setting limits, it also goes back to what are the things that cost money that you always need to have in your mind? I've got this down just in case. And so, from a property investing point of view, we talk about property management, maintenance, insurance, as well as vacancy. And others will call it a void, others will call it an emergency fund. Having these things taken care of while you're doing your numbers will help you in the long run. And then last but certainly not least, the basics that you always need to consider is your lease agreement. Make sure on your lease agreement, if you're talking about late payment, it's legal to do what I'm going to explain to you right now. On a lease agreement, you could say rent is due the last day of every month. If rent is not paid by the second of the following month, you allow me to mark you as a slow payer on ITC.
Oh,
Yes. Interesting, isn't
okay.
it? So in terms of
Yeah.
late payment, think about it. Would maybe you've got a bond, but the seventh F&B is going to start calling you, where's my money? You're going to put a buffer in there. Some people will actually, Silna's told me before, you still kind. I say by the first of every month. You pay me by the
You
last day. By the first, I need my money in my account. I'm like, okay. And Silna, as you know, is an attorney.
And if you miss your account payment, actually, if you look at your credit score, it will reflect as if you've missed the payment. It reflects on your credit score, on your credit score.
100%. 100%. Absolutely 100%. You spot on there. And that's why if you don't treat your property as a business, people, it will drag you down. People will
Yeah.
drag you down, and you'll be that landlord that keeps on saying property is no good. But your
Mm.
setting of limits and your things that you put in place is, if it's non-existent, then what?
Mm. Mm.
Cool. And those are some of the basics to consider.
Okay.
In terms of tips for vetting, tips for finding and vetting tenants, what we've done before, we've gone onto Gumtree and said 2 bed, 1 bath, and the example that we've been using in our conversation, 2 bed, 1 bath, garage, Wi-Fi, and washing machine in Midrand, 2 kilometers from Vodacom,
Mm.
looking for young professionals, for example. Here are the people that are calling you. By the time people start calling you, you are then able to say, because they don't have proof anyway, sorry, that property, that rental's been taken. Listen to the conversation of the people calling you. Because right now, what you're doing is you're trying to find, is the appetite for this sort of thing?
Okay.
You're finding out, if I put an advert in Gumtree for people to find me, is the appetite for this? Can I go on to Marketplace on Facebook and do the same thing? Look at the questions and comments and the interaction in that post. Is there value in this? Because now what you're doing is you're looking to see, I've got my strategy in place, it's passive income. I got my area, it's Midrand. I'm going to find my property, but I think if I have a 2-bed, 1 bath, it could go for professionals. Can I just test the waters and put an advert on Gumtree and an advert on Facebook? Okay. When I put that on Facebook and Gumtree, because it's free, who are the people that are calling me? How long did I have to wait for anyone to call me? And in 48 hours, if there's enough people that called you, you can remove the advert. It's not going to be on there forever, isn't it? You can remove the advert, and then it gives you this rest assurance inside. Okay, now I'm going to go and look for that 2-bed, 1 bath. Why? Because I now see the appetite that is there, and I can see how I'm going to get my tenants. Does that make sense? Okay.
It makes perfect sense.
I love that one. Oh, you're such a darling, you know. So that's wonderful with perfect sense.
Tell me, what about Property 24? Because you are only mentioning Gumtree here. Does Gumtree have a wider audience? Is there
It's free.
a reason? Property 24 is not free.
I don't know what cost that you would have to put in to have an account or anything like that. I don't know. So you could try and see. So I'm just using free things to determine. Facebook, people live on Facebook. Gumtree, people still go on Gumtree. OLX, same, like OLX, Gumtree, Facebook Marketplace, they're free. I've got control that I can take it down. So if you want to investigate Property 24, that I would think from where I'm sitting, the difference is on Property 24, you may want to, they may want to see the pictures.
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But on Facebook and on Gumtree, if you pick up a random picture, think of a complex that's close to Vodacom. You take that picture of the complex, you put it there. You just put the complex picture, because the whole idea is having the conversation. You're sifting out by hearing who is calling you. Are they really young professionals? Sometimes, you know, like for example, having worked in the call center. I worked in the call center for about 4 or 5 years. And it was the funniest thing for me when I was helping out a client when I just started in business. My phone etiquette has always been on point because I worked in the call center. That's what I want to accredit it to. So I would literally, if somebody calls me and they'll say, hi, this is Genevieve, or I'm calling someone. Let's take that one. I'm calling someone. Hi, could I speak to Kiamo? If you say, yes, it's Kiamo speaking. Hi, Kiamo, how are you doing? No, I'm fine, thank you. And how are you? And I'm wonderful. Kiamo, do you have 2 minutes for me? I am so-and-so, and I'm calling from such and such a place. And I want to have a quick discussion with you regarding ABC.
Yeah, that's a call center call.
Isn't it? And the funniest thing happened to me at this client. This client wanted to know, why did you ask this person, does this person have time? They answered the phone, so surely they should have time. Why did you have to state where you're calling her from and why? Because that just sounds like so. And I'm like, no, coming from a call center, I want to respect someone's time. And for me, even though this person has signed up to be on your cause, if I say, I'm Genevieve and I'm calling from FHC Consulting with regards to your 1 day getting started in property cause, you have 2 minutes. You don't know whether the person wants to excuse themselves from the present company. You don't know, you know? And they're like, oh, okay. Because every time I called, immediately the person would entertain my phone call. And they said, you have got 100% success rate when you call students that are under you. So I said, yes, because if I tell them what it's in connection with, if it's aligned to their beliefs and their values, they are going to make that 2 minutes for me now.
Mm.
And it's not that I'm demanding it, I'm letting them make the call. And it was the most fascinating thing for one of the clients. They're like, I never realized that. And then I said, okay, for all your guys in future that's going to call, because I was setting up the processes, can they open the conversation like this? And when I did that, and I went back for a routine maintenance, so to speak, 2 months later, they said our success rate on getting to our clients in the first call has moved up to 97%. It used to be at 33. And I said, wow, by a simple.
And I guess people, sorry, I guess people feel respected as well. Sorry.
No, it's fine. So that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you want to put a system in place to verify what you're doing. And having chosen Gumtree or OLX or Facebook, it's not so much what I'm choosing. I'm choosing it for free because people that are looking for places to stay, 9 out of 10 times, if they don't want to pay someone, they're going to be looking at Gumtree, OLX, and Facebook.
Okay. All right.
Facebook has got some free mode, something, ne?
Yeah. Yes. That I think if you don't have data, you can still see the post, but not the pictures. Yeah. So people, okay.
So think about young people these days. They will use their data for what they think is important. I say that like I'm so old, but I think of myself 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That young professional, so yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, it's interesting. I love the testing idea. It never, that you test the market. That's how it's like your market research and testing the market first.
Absolutely.
And you might find that actually my strategy won't work here. I might have to find another place. Maybe I'm in the wrong area.
Exactly.
And it's better to find out earlier on than later when you are already in and you have invested much.
Correct. You'll see tomorrow when I share with you some of the lessons through the deals that I've done. How, by us finding an informal notice board in Kempton Park, because we were walking in the area, how that literally brought us in double the rent than Property 24.
Wow.
I'll show you that tomorrow. I'm sure tomorrow we'll get there. So moving on, another tip about lease agreements on TPN. If you go to TPN and you click on TPN shop, TPN has got lease agreements. Do not be Genevieve that first downloaded her first lease agreement, and then she got very smart, and she thought she got very smart when she went to go and buy a CNA lease agreement. Don't be Genevieve. Okay. What I found is the moment we went onto the lease agreement from TPN, that's a lease agreement that taught us the late payment to affect ITC scoring.
Oh, okay.
Phil Stein is the lawyer that looks after that lease agreement.
Okay. So they actually take into account the law as well. Okay.
As well as evictions.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
So through the coaching program, I've got two. The one that's on you can win. It's half of the program, but it still gives you all the things that you need to know. I'll tell you about it later, but I want to reflect on this so you can see that throughout how I work, I've always got people in their professional capacity coming to share with me their profession So that even if you say, Jen had so-and-so, I'm going to call so-and-so and say, while I was going through the education, I heard you and Jen's conversation. I want to XYZ. So
Okay.
now with Silna, she was the one that is, I call her the gatekeeper amongst other lawyers that looks after this lease agreement that TPN sells. What happens is if there's any change in law, it updates. So depending on which one you buy, you will get something that's constantly updating, or even that once-off agreement that that if you go on the once-off route, you still get a very tight lease agreement. And that's where I learned about the late payments to affect ITC scoring. That is the same lease agreement we use across all of our tenants. The property management company that runs some of the properties, we tell them you will use no other lease agreement except the one we give you.
This one.
Because it
We are
was
schooling them in the process. Yeah.
Exactly. It was an investment that we made. It was a decision that we said, if we want to know, even in that lease agreement, the webinar that I had with Silna, which is part of one of the modules you'll go through in coaching, I've said to Silna, if somebody uses this lease agreement, can you point out some of the things that can protect them from evictions? So they already got evictions in mind in that lease agreement.
Who's that? The tenant or the landlord? Who has eviction in mind?
The lease agreement and the way it was built.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So what happens is, Silna and them, whenever they're updating the lease agreement, you as a landlord can be comforted that a lawyer has got all the steps for you to take before you even get to evictions.
Oh.
And if you get to evictions, 9 out of 10 times you could potentially have an unopposed eviction, which is quick to the point. But when you have an opposed eviction, your lease agreement serves as the gatekeeper for you. You say, in this lease agreement, this is what is stated. And the tenant has contravened 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Interesting, right?
No, yeah. Yeah. As you're talking now, I'm like, my current thing is in trouble.
But you know, the joy is, Kiama, when you don't know, you don't know, ne?
Yeah.
I was a landlord of my 2-bed, 1-bath for a long time. And I sold that 2-bed, 1-bath in 2014 because I was frustrated. That same lease agreement off the internet and CNA, fortunately, my tenants were not that clued up.
Yeah.
You know, if I said to them, okay, guys, I'm selling the place. Here's notice. I'm giving you 90 days so that you can accumulate your deposit. You can accumulate funds and start looking, and you're not under pressure for 30 days. And they were like, oh, thank you, Jane. We really appreciate that. Wada, you know. So they were not that tenant to take advantage, but they did take advantage of my good nature by not paying me on time. They took advantage of my good nature by not paying me full electricity bills. You know, people will do some things, but if it was a smart one that said, oh, let me just check what this lease agreement said, I would have been in trouble. So maybe have a look at what yours says.
Yeah.
And say to yourself, the next time you renew the lease agreement, then you introduce the new one.
Yeah.
It's a thought.
Yeah, no, because actually what I did, because I am not done with finalizing the estate. So that lease agreement is actually with the tenant and the estate. So they need the estate, and I put it in the lease agreement that as soon as the estate is finalized, then they will have to enter into a new agreement with the beneficiary if the beneficiary wants to continue. So I've put that it will have to change, but not obviously not using that reason.
For sure. But at least you've got it there. So well done.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. So yeah, and then the last tip here would be to say ask for bank statements. And the reason I say ask for bank statements is because everywhere you go with your RICA and FICA and all of those things, I ask for bank statements. When they give you the bank statement, sit with it and actually take a calendar and look at every Friday. What date was Friday? If Friday was the 20th, you go looking on this, oh, the 20th of October, somebody did something you highlighted. You look for the next Friday. You're just looking for Fridays by the dates. Then you take a different color and then you look for the Saturday. And the reason I say that is this. People show habits by what they spend money on. If every Friday, and I'm not condemning anybody, but if every Friday they at a pub and tops is happening, Saturdays they're at a casino. Again, everybody's entitled to their own way of life. But if they've got this habit going and they never pay my rent on time, I mean, if they've got this habit going, my concern would be what happens when they don't pay their rent on time. And then the third thing you look out for is if their payday is on the 25th, what happens 3 days directly after that pay? Or maybe what is the first 5 transactions from the salary? Each month, if it's consistent, it shows you where their value is. Each month, if it's different things each month, you must wonder if it's different things every month, are you not working on a budget? When my husband and I bought the farm, the bond originator said, "You're very predictable." And I wondered, what? Why would you say that? She says, for 3 months, I know exactly what you're paying as you get paid. When we had to ask you for another 3 months, which is 6 months back, for 6 months, the first 7 things on your, after you got paid, was exactly the same thing and exactly the same amount. And like, my eyes just went, why? Because every time I got paid, I opened my spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet.
Your
and
budget.
I go, and I go and I pay those things line item by line item. Because then in my mind, after that, the debit orders come off. But I also know after the debit orders come off, what is left after that.
Yeah.
And I worked so much. And she even said, you pay these things, your debit orders happen, and then you go go grocery shopping. Then you go
So if he was looking for you, they will know where to find you.
And I never ever thought of it that way. But your bank statement can share where your priorities are. So
that's a good one.
These are just different tips for finding and vetting tenants. And this is on passive income. So now we know our strategy is to find passive income. Our area will determine that I can get it there. In this particular area, I can put small little ads like Gumtree and Facebook to show me is there appetite in this particular area. Having my quick analysis, it gives me comfort each time I go and view a property. This is it. Okay, so that's just quickly a synopsis on there. So I want to ask one question before we move on to flip. Till this point, is there anything from today's exercise or even yesterday that pitched up that you would like to talk about or ask or
No, no, I think I'm following nicely. I like the I like how practical it is. You know, it's quite, not that I was expecting theory, but it's quite practical. But I'm following.
Wonderful stuff. So
Mm.
with the flip opportunity, which I call active income, and the reason I call it active income, Kiamo, is that you're going to be working for it. If you didn't find a house to renovate and sell, if you find nothing, you earn nothing. But once you buy a property and people are in there, that passive income could equate to you working 2 to 3 hours a month, which is fair to say passive income on that level. So we'll go through a couple of these pointers fast and furious, because it's not anything, I believe, earth shattering. But again, you will be able to stop me if I go too fast. In terms of flipping, research and know the fair market value. We've established that with area research in the overall property investing strategy. You just need to understand this particular area calls for a flip. Find your distressed property, because a flip usually comes from a rundown property like I showed you. Establish the refurb or the renovation. You know, some call it refurb, some call it renovation. So if I use it interchangeably, it's just really the fixing up cost. So establish what that is by taking a builder with you or a contractor with you to give that estimation, because obviously, you know, from a flip opportunity, there's work to be done. We can't shy away from work to be done. In terms of having that relationship with a builder, you could then say to the builder, the contractor, I'm going to put a payment schedule together. If you're saying on your project that today you're busy with tiling, tomorrow you're busy with whatever, I want to align the payment schedule to the activity that you're doing, so that we know as money goes out where it's going. Or is it that you're going to need money upfront? We can go to Builders Warehouse, buy all the material that we need, and then you're going to tell me what is needed in between. But I don't need you to tell me now, the tap broke, I need a tap now. So,
Yeah.
so exactly. So having that payment schedule in place for your renovation actually helps you have communication with your builder, because you either end up saying, I'm going to pay you on invoice, or I'm going to go and get all the material that you're going to need for the first phase. As you're finishing off the first phase, I'm going to see the money that we budgeted for that, to see actually what happened, so that we know what happens for the next phase. So then there's that conversation that keeps going up and down in terms of a flip. And
Okay.
Yeah.
You just said so before you make payment, you look at what your costs are so far and how much you can pay them. So if there's movement between what you had initially budgeted for, do you penalize the builder for that?
You have the conversation with the builder to say, so you gave me a quote. I understand that a quote is a guideline of how much money I should have available. But you said to me that we were going to spend 5,000 Rand, but now we've spent 12,000 Rand. How do we justify that? Because if you spend 12,000 versus 5,000, it's 7,000 more. Whereas if you said this job is going to cost 5,000 and it's coming from 5,500, it is a small amount to say, it's within reason. So you would actually at that time say, you know what, we spent 70% of the budget and we're only a quarter of the way through. How are we gonna get the funds for everything else? Because right now I'm gonna be left in the lurch and having to find this money. What if I don't find this money because your quotation was so different? So it then it keeps that conversation going, because again, one of the things that we've learned over time, if you give the builder the whole budget, they're continuing on their way, because there's all this money is available. And when they suddenly run out, and then your project is 3/3 of the way through, 3/4 of the way through, then you realize for this last quarter, I'm going to have to foot a bill I didn't foresee. Or if there was something in the roof that nobody would have seen, you could have then said to yourself, I'm going to have a contingency plan for the thing I don't know about. Another example is there was a property where we found there was a wall that was made out of mud. You know, the old days, how they used to build with mud.
Yeah.
And grass. The wall was made out of mud and grass. No one saw that coming. No one saw that coming. In the roof, the trusses that do this was the barks of an oak tree. No one could have foreseen that. So in terms of being and getting to know property, we had to say, okay, cool. Now that we see flames, we see flames, we just need to understand that we need to have a contingency plan.
Okay, that makes sense.
In terms of renovation, bring the property up to functional level, meaning if you are doing your bathroom, go to Bathroom Bazaar. They specialize in the things that you need. If you are doing building, go to Builders Warehouse for the stuff that they need. Don't necessarily go for fancy items. Oh, this mixer is a grow mixer. I like it. No, go to Bathroom Bazaar. It will not be the end of the world, because the aim is not to make it fancy. The aim is to make it functional. Can somebody open the tap and water comes out? You know, can I switch the light on and I don't get electrocuted? That sort of vibe. Something to keep in mind with the flip, it's like buying from an emotional point of view, as if you are buying property to stay in. The buying decision is generally made within a few minutes of seeing the property. Would you agree?
Oh.
Think about the places you've gone to view. There's something that just stuck into your heart the moment you got there. And every time you thought about that place, though, it's got this thing.
True. Yeah.
And every time, because that place made your heart jump, every time you go and see something else, it's not good enough because of that place. There's a buying decision right there.
Okay.
Again, just a couple of things to note about a flip, because people are buying an emotion. You're selling the property. That's where you're going to get your lump sum amount, your capital that you're going to invest somewhere else or grow from, whatever the case is. Curb appeal. When you walk to the door, if I'm walking to the door of this particular property that's here in front of me, I can see the number clearly. The door is pretty. There's a nice handle. The light bulb is there. There's like a little garden yana leading up to my front door. When I look at it, I think it's beautiful. So the whole idea is keep curb appeal, meaning keep your house, the front of your house, attractive for people. Make it neat. Make sure that it's clutter free. I remember during class, they said a bright red door or a strong blue color and a nice door handle will make that house stand in somebody's mind for a long time. We've tested the theory on the blue, like a navy blue door with a nice brass handle. You would be amazed at how much conversation comes from there. So house colors inside and outside, it goes across the board with us. In property investing, they call it BMW, beige, magnolia, white. It gives this place a spacious look. It's a neutral color. It's not like red. When we first came to see this property, Taura used to call it the red house. I kid you not, the lounge, the dining room, and the kitchen area, the wall was red. It was red. So we've kept the kitchen red because it was just the wall on top But the lounge area and the dining room area, we painted like an eggshell color.
Oh, okay. I can imagine a lounge red.
Red. It was
Sounds like a place you can watch horror movies in.
I love it. I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure. Even the passage leading to the rooms were red.
Yeah, because I would think like a kid's bedroom can make it red, maybe for a boy. Yeah, not okay.
Interesting.
Anyway.
So because we liked the house above all the other houses, we said we'll paint it. And of course, this
Yeah.
was before property, so we painted an eggshell. So the eggshell is it's attractive because it's got that magnolia type of look to it. Anyway, and then when it comes to flips, if the properties in the area are going for 500,000, you want to go in at 489,000, 485,000, just slightly under market value, because you want to be quick in, you want to renovate, and you want to be quick out of the market. And that's the whole aim of property flipping. So now, with everything that we've spoken about today and yesterday, to put it into a deal life cycle, remember yesterday we spoke about property alignment, strategy alignment.
Yeah.
Okay, when you go in and you've got a property, you buy a distressed property, you're going to renovate, just like we were talking about, whether it's going to be for passive or active income. If your first strategy that is aligned to your goal is flipping, okay, you're going to then put it onto the market so that it can sell. But even the first few months, it doesn't sell. There's no bite. You want to take it off the market, rent it perhaps for 6 months. In the 6-month period, on month 4, you want to put it back onto the market to sell. I call this the deal life cycle because you want to know you bought the property, you've renovated it. If your main strategy does not work, while we are running numbers, we need to see what does our exit strategy look like, and is it aligned to my goals and to where I'm going to? And that's something that I always say. Now that we know our strategy, our area, we've gone into it, we found our property. When we found the property, we did this quick analysis on what it's going to look like. We've now bought it, we've renovated. It's looking pretty. It's got its bright door. It's got its nice brass handle. We're going to sell it. But emotionally, if people are not in tune, or if it was not the right time for the market, what then should it look like? Let me put it in rental for a couple of months and then put it back onto the market to sell. You want to know either which way you are making money. And that I talk about the deal life cycle at this point to put everything that we've done in the last 2 days into perspective, because that's really what it's going towards.
So it essentially incorporates risk management.
High five, right there. Because then we want to take all the business terminology and we want to put it into perspective, right? And that's the perspective you've just put it into right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool stuff. So what we're going to do is, at this point, when we reflect back onto the overall strategy of any property investing opportunity, we've established we'll get money, we'll understand our strategy, get to our area, find our property, understand that there's analysis. But there's also different ways within property investing to make money from property without necessarily having the money on hand. And that's called creative finance. However, there's also other avenues for investors to fund their deals. And I put it under this particular column just because it's much like a financing house. So you'll see why I've got these 5 categories. As we go through the 5 categories, the first one that I'm going to be talking about is sourcing. Sourcing is something that both TJ and I have done, and we've been able to make our this creative strategy work for us. Sourcing really just goes back to everything that you do as an investor. A sourcing agent does that, but then they go over and above to go and find the money. So as a sourcing agent, you will have to know your area. You research and you become an expert in that area, which is the market research that we've spoken about. You have a great power team. Yesterday, I touched on what's a power team. It's really your professional team where there's a builder, potentially, and mainly like a builder so that they can give you a quote. Your power team can consist of people like Silna, who is an attorney, and you are busy with your lease agreement. She's part of your team. She comes in when you need her. Your power team can consist of, for example, you'd say, you know what, Jen is the one that's got the money, and when I go and find a deal, she's part of my power team because she's going to make this deal happen. So your power team literally is, who is it from a professional point of view that you need to get from this point to that point. As a sourcing agent, you would also need to understand capital, income, and cash generating strategies. Remember earlier yesterday, we were talking about my strategy. Is it capital or is it income?
Yeah.
Am I looking for a lump sum? Am I looking for a monthly income to come my way? As a sourcing agent, you have to understand those terms and who you're looking for a property for. And when I mean by cash generating strategies, much like your Airbnb that I've also touched on, and your rent to rent strategy. Why? Because yes, there's passive income for rent. Yes, there's a flip to get your capital. Yes, there is an income to get your rental income, but there's other cash generating strategies like rent to rent. Can I go for an investor and go and find a number of rent to rent opportunities so that my investor can go in there and plug in Airbnb? Okay. Find good quality deals. A lot of people believe that they have deals until they run the numbers.
Imagine.
Get a good builder on your side, because as a sourcing agent, your builder is your one person that you are going to go to more than anybody else. Why? For quotation on renovation.
Okay.
Okay. Find good quality investors. I say this with all due respect. There's a lot of people that want to get into property investing. You find a deal and they say, this property is too distressed. Woo! Somebody else will say, oh, it's distressed enough. Do you think you can find something more broken down so we can make more money? And then somebody's going to say, oh, no, I'm no longer in multi-lets now, I'm in service accommodation. So find
Tata.
You see?
And you've spent all that time.
So the reality of the life of a sourcing agent is you're going to meet up with these people. It is okay, because it's part of the journey to really sharpen you as a person. If there's something I've learned, it will sharpen you.
It teaches patience. And I guess humility as well. You just have to swallow some of the things that you are thinking.
It's like you've been there. True. You have said it perfectly. People will show you what I call a spook with a bow tie. Quick question. I know that we've got 5 more minutes for this particular session. My question to you is, do you perhaps have an additional 10 minutes for me today? Just so that we can close off Creative Finance. And when we get
Okay.
talking tomorrow, we start straight away with business and tax. It's not
Okay.
a
No,
train smash though.
no, it's fine. We can continue for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, but I'll need to go to the bathroom first.
No problem. Go to the bathroom because we've got this 5 minutes
Yeah.
now, and go
Yeah.
through the information that we're going to go through. Again, it's a lot of quick hitting information so that it's
Yeah.
brought to your awareness. Go to the
Yeah.
bathroom. I'll wait for you.
Okay. Sure, sure.
Cool stuff. Now that you're back. So yeah, I was talking about finding good quality investors. What
Yeah.
happens is that sometimes people think they're doing a sourcing agent a favor, and yet it's a business win-win situation. And you rightfully shared, as sourcing agents, you bite the bullet and you eat humble pie. And you actually ask yourself, do I want to work with this person again or not? And there's a lot of investors I have chosen not to go ever go back to, ever. Why? Because I just realized they themselves, I had to pull out, what is it that you are looking for?
Mm.
There's an investor that got to me, I believe you're a sourcing agent. Please, can you help me? Perfect. So what are you looking for? No, I'm looking to do flip opportunities. Happy. Which area do you stay in? Oh, I stay in the West Rand. I said, oh, lovely. So we're neighbors. I'm also in the West Rand. So which areas
Mm.
are you looking to do your flips? Santon? Okay. So I said, that's an interesting area. So
Mm.
in terms of financing, when you finance the property, are you going about it going to the bank, or do you have money, or what is it, so that I know what I could use as a bargaining tool? Oh
Mm.
yes, actually I've got equity, so I'm going to tap into equity, and then I'm going to tap into my brother because he's got funds and we're doing this together. I said, okay,
Mm.
wonderful. It's off to a good start. So how much have you budgeted? So I also know not to look for the maximum, but to look for something that will include your maximum and all the things below that. She says, currently I've got a bar. I said, a bar in Santon, 1 million in Santon. And then she looked at me and I repeated it, 1 million
Mm.
Santon. She said,
Mm.
oh, flip. I said, yeah, I'm glad you saw it eventually. 1 million Santon,
Mm.
not the
Mm.
same WhatsApp group.
Mm.
And then she says, no, I didn't give that a thought. Hey? I said, you know what? I can work on what you've got so far, but let's fine tune your area, because Santon is not going to work. I don't care how we're going to look at it, but Santon
Mm.
not going to work. And then she says, no, I didn't think it through properly. So for that person, I was happy to work with her. I took her to the first one. No, thank you. I need to walk away from it. I took her to the second one. No, thank you. I need to walk away from it. I took her to the third one. And I said, when she said, no, thank you, I said, now I need to understand.
Mm.
3 deals have had nothing in common.
Yeah.
The first deal was in the south and it was still in good direction for where you're going to drive. You didn't like it because it's an insolvent estate and you didn't like the offer to purchase. I get it, because that offer to purchase is a beast on its own. The second one, you said you don't think by your research you've done that it will work. But you didn't say to me, in the research I did, this I should reconsider, that I should reconsider. I did ask you for it so that I can understand what you saw that you didn't think would work, not for me to fine tune it so that I can force it on you, but to keep it as top of mind, because in property investing, the more we see, the more we learn, the stronger we grow. The third opportunity, she's just like, I have to walk away. And I said, okay, again, you need to share with me what didn't work for you so that I don't bring you something that does not make sense to you. No, I just don't think this is for me. And I said, okay, cool, no problem. I never called her again because I realized that there was fear of something keeping her back. 2 occasions I had to ask, what didn't you like? And even though the one she said, the due diligence, it just doesn't feel like it doesn't feel right. That's the word. Doesn't feel. I mean, no, I work with numbers now.
Not emotions.
So
Yeah.
by the 3, I then realized, okay, we're different people. Whereas when I took this other deal to an investor, he took it now. So he's called the estate agent now. Let's sign now. Don't get emotional. Okay, don't get emotional. And I said to the estate agent, please can you send the offer to purchase to my business partner, because they, we want to go ahead with this particular opportunity. And so I found that not all investors are made equal, and the same goes for not all sourcing agents are made equal. Not all sourcing agents are going to ask the questions I do. And there's maybe more for me to learn, but I realized being a coach, I can also ask questions of make me understand more so that I don't dish up the same thing.
You'll come back with the same mistake, with the same,
And
it will make your job easier if you know what to look for, what not to look for.
Exactly, because then I may have a reason why I'm doing one thing. You could have a reason, and then if we look at our reasons, if they're similar, we can come to an agreement. But if you don't give me feedback, I don't know how to fine tune the journey for you. And then I remember coming home the 3rd time and sitting down and thinking, I wonder what has got her in a different space. And it clicked. This person's been 2.5 years in property investing with education only. Done a deal. Maybe there's fear, but it's not my job to deal with her fear. But it was me to realize I can't keep going back to somebody that doesn't even know what they want.
But maybe you can just turn them into a coachee. You are not ready to be an investor. Maybe it's for you to let me coach you rather.
I did say to her, I appreciate where you're coming from. I just want to share with you my feedback on the experience so that I know I can be better for the next person. First time I could understand the insolvent estate. Not everybody has appetite for that. The second one, you were not able to define what didn't sit well with you. And I shared with you, I don't work on emotions. The third one, you just said it's just not for me, but you were not able to give me a direction so that I don't bring you the same of the sameness the next time and waste of our time. And with that, it means our communication somewhere is not, and if our communication is not on point, I'm not going to be serving you. So I want to know how I could serve you. And if it doesn't work out, I'm okay. And I gave that feedback, and it's like, no, there's nothing wrong with you. The deals that you bring are fantastic. Hey, ha, ha. I'm like, okay, so that's why I put in, when I talk about sourcing, find good quality investors, because at the end of the day, while you're looking for money, for people to invest and they don't have the time, if their experience and their acumen is not there, I also had to learn to ask the person, have you done any property investing education? For the ones that said no, I said, I'm not your sourcing agent, because I'm going to do due diligence, market research, put all the reports together, and I'm going to share with you from my point of view. But when you need to double check,
you won't know
your own research and due diligence, where are you going to start?
Yeah.
And then if something happens that you miscalculate, You're going to say, she brought me a bad deal.
So your question is, do you have metric? If you don't have metric, I don't deal with you.
Oh, you are so funny. Yes, I like the way you
Yeah.
say things.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Go to school and come and see me.
Exactly. And then I then started realizing not everybody that is interested in investing is up to the mark of letting go money. Because then they say, why this? Why that? I'm like, no, if you had the investment knowledge, you would not be asking me why. You would know, especially if you had the basics of the training, you would know. But now if you ask me why,
Now I'm training you.
you understand. And then if things go wrong, even if I put the right things in front of you that you misinterpreted, you are going to blame me. And that's why I say in sourcing, find good quality investors. But last but certainly not least, because this is a business, when I meet real estate agents that show me deals, I do all the research that I need to do, run the numbers, put the proposals together and whatnot. But I can easily go and show this to Kiamo. And if Kiamo just feels like, I'm not going to pay Gina for the sourcing fee, too much, no. I'll go straight to so-and-so. This is where the basic contract of the non-disclosure agreement comes in. So when you get into a relationship as a sourcing agent with a investor, have all the investors sign the basic contract of the NDA and say to them, if I show you anything, the 12-month period for you is that you cannot go back to these deals on your own except with me. There is a part where somebody could go behind your back, then obviously you'll never deal with them again. I've had that happen. But having that basic contract in place, the investor looking at you as a sourcing agent gets a comfort that this person's ducks are in a row. They're making me sign a contract to say I can't go and get their deals. They're protecting their territory, their IP, and all of that.
But what if they do it even after signing the contract?
There isn't that much of a you can go to small claims court.
Okay.
The legal ramifications are not so strong. But the gesture is there to say this is what you're doing. And if somebody does that, for me, it's a matter of, if somebody's talking about investors, then I'll say, oh, you're talking about Kiamo. No, I'll never work with Kiamo because Kiamo stole my deal. Even though they signed my NDA, now you end up suffering.
It's a small world.
Thank you. You suffer from somebody talking about that.
Yeah, because you don't have integrity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how it goes. And that's really just a wrap in terms of sourcing. Sourcing, that's what it's about. In terms of...
So, can I just ask, so in summary, a sourcing agent just looks for these deals, you bring them to the investor and the investor takes them up. So you're just doing all the research and the due diligence. So if there's a Kiamo who's just lazy to be doing all this driving around and blah, 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 they just call you. Okay.
And sometimes people just don't have the time.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
no, it makes
could be in a situation where you've got a 9-to-5 job. And then after that, you go home, you must do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Over the weekend, your children need to go to ballet and all these 12 things, but you've got this desire to start in property. But if everything is already in front of you and you go and you view the property one day after work, you go home and you do your due diligence, it's easier because it's a narrowed, instead of seeing 10 properties to get there, 100 properties to get there, you already given something that is as good as a sure deal.
It's convenient.
Yebo. And people pay for convenience and they also pay for somebody else's time. And the whole idea is also in terms of sourcing, you'll see in the deal calculator, we'll address how a sourcing agent gets paid then.
Okay.
Cool. In terms of creative finance, joint ventures, that was the first deal that we got through the door in a joint venture. A joint venture is literally, you ask, what are you bringing to the partnership? Somebody will have money, somebody will have skill. And you say, instead of paying me for the deal that I've just packaged, what we're going to do is bring my skills to the table. You bring your money to the table. I'll run with the project and you fund the project. There's also a contract in that relationship where the essentials on this particular contract is there needs to be an entry and exit criteria, meaning when we get into this relationship, Genevieve is going to bring the skills, the time, and she's going to work on project management. Kiamo is going to bring the money. However, for every deal that comes into the table, both parties must do research, due diligence, wara, wara, wara.
So that they're on the same page.
So you state what your roles and responsibilities are. Because Kiamo feels I'm bringing the money to the table, I need to get more than 50%. And because Jen feels like I'm bringing the deal, if there was no deal, you'd be doing nothing with your money. Maybe we could have 50-50. So there's that conversation. Okay. So the entry criteria is, what are we doing together? The exit criteria is, while we're busy with this, if a bus hits Kiamo, how is me that's only got the skill going to continue with this particular deal? So we need to think far and wide. And then obviously you must know, so Kiamo, what is your strategy? What is mine? If my strategy is I want a lump sum by means of a flip, so that our joint venture is a short-lived one because it's by that deal, and yours is passive income, are our strategies aligned? No, then the joint venture can't work.
Yeah.
Will the relationship, the partnership exist for as long as the deal is around? Or are we going to open up a company? We're going to fund the company. So if a bus hits one person, the other person can continue. And then whatever this one person who's no longer there, all of the proceeds goes into a will that goes into the estate. It goes far, a joint venture. So those are the things you need to consider. It sounds great to put skill and money together, but the intricacies, who, the roles and responsibility, exit criteria, whatever the case is. Then third on the list of creative finance is angel investors. A lot of people love the idea of somebody else coming in with the money. I always ask, do you know who you're looking for? I didn't know. I just knew there's an angel investor. I don't know what it looked like. But what I learned over time is that as you are connecting with people, if you've got an idea that an angel investor could be a friend of mine who's just received a retrenchment package and wants to put that money into an opportunity to give them money on a monthly basis, that is my angel investor. I want to know, what does that angel investor looks like in the grand scheme of life? Some people think an angel investor is like what we spoke about yesterday. There's this magic pot of investors. We just go there and go and get one. You know, sometimes we need to look close to home. What does looking close to home look like? Do I have siblings I can go into a deal with that are reliable? Do I have friends that are business minded that I can go into a deal that is reliable? Could I meet my business partner or an angel investor in the classroom, just as me, Rieta, and TJ met in the classroom? Do I network enough to understand that networking will expose what I do and therefore attract people to me by means of what I do? Because in the grand scheme of life, again, if we realize that angel investors don't, I say they don't fly solo. Sometimes they just come in a matter of let me tell you this quick story. Do you know, have I ever shared? I don't know, because I talk so much. That's I'm asking. Have I ever shared on my Facebook page or anywhere how I started with group coaching? Do you
No, I don't recall.
now?
No, I don't recall.
It was towards the end of 2018. Every time I went to the property networks, I would say, hey, I've got a deal. What? People would come to me. Others will say, I want to be like you. Others will say, I want that deal. And that's how I met people. Then there's this one chickie. She says to me, you are going to be my coach. I said, you are going to buy a deal from me. We laughed about it. She would come to the next session. She says, I want you as my coach. And I'm like, no, I don't do that. I helped a client for a short period of time. It's not my space. It's not my space. It's not my space yet. It's just, and I used to push back. 2, 3 months it went on. And then there was somebody that said, can you just teach us, please, what you're doing? Because others, if we can go to so and so, it feels like I'm a bit intimidated because that person, the way they talk, you are relate to. I want you to teach me, please. So I was flattered. I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. I'll consider it. But in the back of my mind, I was like, hi. This is hard work. Me, I'm busy trying to make a hustle with sourcing. Every time I go in front of the deal, I close a deal, there's 40K or there's 20K or whatever, you know? Hey, this one chick said to me, it's month 4. When are you going to coach me? And so I thought, okay. I said, Lovey, why do you think I am the one? She says, because we were sitting in a similar class. And I can't see somebody that went through the same sorts of training up there every time. And because I couldn't afford 100,000 to get a coach, I can't be there. I said, oh, is that the problem? Because of course I wasn't taking notice, right? And then she says, yes, in fact, it's not just me. Me, it's my sister, it's my cousin, and my friend. So it's the 4 of us. We want this coaching, and even if we put money together, they'll never all coach 4 of us for this money. So I said, oh, if you are serious about coaching, I took out my business card. I gave it to her and I said to her, my office is in Fairland. Be there at 2:00 on Monday. Here's my card. Call me. When you call me, I'll send you the address. She says, no. WhatsApp, there's my number. There's my number. Put it there in your phone. Put it there in your phone. Okay. I just save it there and then. Now send me the address. Send me the address. Send me. I said, okay. I sent the address. Long story short, come Monday, she calls me in the morning. I'm going to see you at 2:00. Actually, I'm going to see you at 5 to 2. The 4 of us are going to be sitting in front of you at 5 to 2. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, this person is serious, you know? They came. While we were sitting there, I said, today you're not paying me. I want to understand, what do you all want from me? Now that we're in a calm environment, you're in my office, what do you want from me? Yes, some tea, juice, whatever you need. What do you want from me? No, we really just want to understand, how do you go about doing this? I said, okay, so do you not know how to find a deal? Not really. So Jen, is that the beginning? So I said, well, this is where the beginning goes. And I started explaining. I shared with them. I gave them homework. And I said, if you're definitely serious about this, we can make, for the next 2 or 3 Mondays, a permanent appointment. 2:00 here. So how do we pay you? I had no idea how they're going to pay me. I said, coaching, when I do life coaching, it's usually 650. So 650 times 4, that's what you'll charge me for. That's what I'll charge you for the session. They looked at me, they said, are you mad? You paid so much. I'm like, guys, don't make me change my mind. Eventually they went. For the next, what we didn't understand was going to turn out to be the next 6 weeks. On a Monday at 2:00, they pitched up with homework. I did this.
Yeah.
Hey, I went there. This one said, helala, hua, hua, hey. And that's how I created my blueprint for group coaching. They pushed me enough. And then at the end of this, when the first one stood in front to do a deal, she was like, give me pointers. I said, just like we did in the class. When you get up there, you know where I'm sitting, look directly at me. Don't look at anybody else. You get up there, you look directly at me. What I did is, instead of sitting where I said, I went to the back and I stood up. So she spotted me. So when she looked at me, it looked like she was looking at everybody, but they didn't know she was looking at me.
Yeah.
She did her thing. After that, she came, she was trembling like this. Those girls told another friend, this one does group coaching.
But
I said, no, I just did it for you guys. No.
You coerced me into doing it.
There we go. I was coerced into doing it again. And then I realized, when people are going into something, generally they're not alone. Generally. I'm not saying it's always the case, but generally. And that's how I see angel investors. They don't fly alone. They don't fly solo. Because at the end of the day, from there, I sat down and I said, okay, I'm attracting a lot of people. This is my reality now. So if I talk my getting started, if I talk from what I've learned from sourcing, everybody needs to find a deal, whether they've got money or they don't have money. So my reality is, if you have to find a deal, whether you've got money or not, you can be in my class. So this getting started was born from what I did during sourcing and to understand moving components. The coaching was born from harassment. But nonetheless, for me, I can always look back and say, surely I believe that angel investors don't fly by themselves, because eventually there was a deal that they got that worked for the four of them. They put money together and they bought that deal. And that's when I'm like, okay, sometimes when we're looking at money, we shouldn't just look at money as somebody like this. Sometimes it's a group of people. And then to close off this particular point, using social media, I was saying to Ayanda earlier, Ayanda, if you just go onto your profile, like if you see my Facebook profile, the Facebook cover shows I teach property investing, education, and coaching. When somebody clicks on that, they click on the link, it leads them to my group. Does your social media send somebody down a funnel that will get to you? When you're in my group, you get my small videos every day. You get encouragements from time to time, and then you get free training. Now, if you're on YouTube, I say, if you're getting started, in the description, there's free training, 3 hours. You go into that training because you've gone through enough social proof and you've received enough value that you can actually do to say, hey, Bana, this one I can connect with. And if you don't connect with me, it's okay to go somewhere else. And I mean, I say that all the time. So I always just believe, from a personal point of view or any other point of view, using social media actually helps you get ahead. And then my last 2 pointers is tough. This is the other avenue for investors. Tough provides access to finance for entrepreneurs from various walks of life to literally purchase, refurbish those inner city buildings that are run down. They give you support and guidance. And of course, there's a lot of risk management that goes with it. So when you go and you see Tough, it's like they ask for your DNA, because the rigorous process is, if they're going to invest in the opportunity that they see with you, they need to understand who you are. They come up with 80%, you come up with 20%. They financed one of our deals in Boksburg. So that's why I say these are just different avenues. The place was run down enough for them to do that. they do the inner city as well. And then last but certainly not least, from the other avenues for investors is Umastandi. Umastandi, they literally help you with finance for those entrepreneurs who look at townships. And if there's a piece of land or there's property and things like that that actually show potential, they can see that it's sustainable and it's building the community. Basically, what they do is they help you get into that rental business because they provide you, because you are providing the community with decent and affordable accommodation. You are building into the community. None of these places pay me to talk about them, but I find them of great value because we've used tough. We've never done a township investment, and you will learn tomorrow why. Tomorrow
it's a hook. Come back tomorrow.
Come back tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll start off with business and tax. You know, I'll put my disclaimer up there, and then we'll go into my lessons through the deals that I've done. And what we literally will do is then close off on the homework of, if you're keen on more student accommodation, which I know that eventually you're going to run academy. Riet and I had done a live, and I know that I streamed live to my group, her group, via YouTube, my YouTube. And if you didn't catch that one, you can always catch it as part of homework tomorrow.
I saw it, but I didn't watch. Okay, I'll listen to it on my way home now.
No problem at all, because that will be like tomorrow's homework. So tomorrow we're literally going to then be closing off the getting started, so that when we meet again the last day, we give ample time to the deal calculator. But I think what makes me excited is that you've been through the deal calculator with me before. So there's two things you could consider. You could consider, Jen, I want to see a deal in action. I actually said to TJ, one of his deals, if he needs running of numbers, he must just give it to me. We'll do that for tomorrow, not tomorrow, the day after. Or alternatively, if you say, no, let us do something on whichever opportunity, pardon, that you may think it's of interest to you, and then we can go through that and have discussions. So it's just,
I think let's do the deal in action.
Okay, the one that I can get from
TJ.
Cool. No problem. But again, you've got tomorrow to consider that, because I'm just closing off sharing that today we really were focusing on the difference between passive income and active income, the different tips that we can get from them. And when we get into creative finance, what are the different options and why would you want to get into creative finance? And the other avenues of getting money, whether you're looking at inner city or you're looking at other residential stuff, or if you focus on the township where you can have a look at. So that really covers what we were doing today. So I look forward to business and tax tomorrow, lessons through my deals, so that we close that one off really well. In terms of, I usually close it off by something called retrain the brain. And the retrain the brain is really just about, what is it that we've learned so far? What is it that I need to unlearn? And what is it that I need to relearn? So that is us for day 2. So thank you for that extra time that you've given us today to literally just complete that one. Tomorrow, depending on our discussions, it will either be probably slightly shorter. You know, each day is a give and take. But I wanted us just to go according to the pace that we've established so far.
Okay. No, thank you very much. I should actually thank you for the extra time. Like I said earlier on, I enjoyed today. I like the practicality of it. You know, if I had to compare with, say, maybe yesterday it was a bit of a theory, but theory is though practical, you know, so this one it's getting real every day, day by day, if I may say that.
Wonderful stuff.
And with JV, maybe I can pack it for tomorrow, because it might relate to the finance part of it, because there are different ways to do it. Like you mentioned, it can be a company in a company. You can start a company, the both of you, or a company in a company. The two companies can have JV, can enter JV agreement, or perhaps you can even do it individually. But I know that there is what is it, record keeping that is required. I don't know, for in terms of accounting, who keeps that? Or it will be up to you guys.
I believe that from experience, firstly, both of you should keep the record keeping. But when it comes to JVs, oftentimes you'll use an attorney as a conduit, as the third person, because the attorney will help you put the contract together.
Okay. All right. No, that's fine, because I remember I saw JV in my studies. There's a, yeah. So it just reminded me of my studies.
So record keeping can go as far as you could use an attorney as a conduit, or you could then say, you know what, we're going to appoint a bookkeeper that will come in from time to time, and this is what they're going to be sharing with us. But again, it goes back to the deal. What is your entry criteria? What is your exit criteria? And that's why I always say, involve an attorney during that contract building, but always go in with some sort of base points of what your joint venture looks like.
Okay, all right. That's all from my side. That's awesome. The only question that I had.
That is all from my side as well. So again, Kiamo, thank you for your patience. Thank you so much that we're flexible. I love the flexibility.
I love it. I wanted to respond to your email this morning, but I thought, we are having a session anyway, so it's fine. I'll tell her that I love the flexibility.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was actually thinking about it. God makes things happen according to his time and according to his purpose. Part of me on Monday felt like, oh, am I let down by people again? I was again, I had come into doing the online version of the training because there were so many inquiries. And I thought, with all the inquiries that were coming my way, let me indulge. And then I said, Lord, I don't know why is this happening now. And on Tuesday morning, yesterday morning, I woke up and I said, it's a brand new day, and you're going to show me why it's going to happen. With the flexibility of yesterday, at the end of our session, we said, okay, what time are we meeting tomorrow? And we said our clock. Oh, okay, cool. We're going to meet tomorrow, like we're going to do now. We're going to look at our timetable. What time tomorrow? And I'm like, okay, Lord, I see you teaching me to remain flexible. Always just be open in time, open in season. And maybe Kiamo needed that. Maybe I needed this process that we are going through as well. So when I woke up today, I was like, yay, I'm going to see her. Things are going to be wonderful. So it works out for the good.
Yes, true that, true. So I don't know, tomorrow, let me say this first, when you out of Zoom, I can't see you now.